Hey there. So, what did you think of my video about the mirror concept? Have you been applying it to your life? How did it feel when you realized that everything you see outside of yourself exists in you? Like, any judgment you had, anytime you were comparing yourself to someone else and saying, well, some people don't get it. It's like that arrogance is in you when you say something like that, you know? And I get that we're all disoriented on where our focus should be, what the rules are, whether or not there are rules, what the truth is or not, how much of what is our responsibility. And it makes navigating Earth a little bit tricky, but the thing is, it doesn't have to be. Like, you don't have to be searching for your purpose or your gift or wishing it was different from what it is, even if you're exhausted and struggling. Because this is what it is. This is what you came for. Like, it might be hard to hear if you're uncomfortable in the moment that I'm saying that. But outside of this earthly existence, you are a soul, you are an essence, you are an energy that knows itself as wholeness, as love, as part of the all. And when you came into Earth, you agreed to look at the experience of being on Earth through one particular lens and through a veil of separation and under the density of illusion. And this can cause a lot of confusion. In order to prepare to be alive on Earth, we agreed to be programmed by other Earthlings into the culture and society and ways that were developed by the people who we were born into and next to and in the environment of. To be inspired by and to be trained by. And all they could ever share is the perspective that they are in, which was also limited when they agreed to come to Earth. The whole process of realizing the perspectives we are in helps us understand them more, helps us master certain energies that they're made up of. And the experiences we have are meant to inspire us toward growth, toward new creation. And sometimes, before that happens, we spend time feeling like we are powerless, feeling like we have it wrong, feeling like we are limited. But that's because that's the perspective we came to experience. The whole experience that we each have is a reflection of our own energy. It's a reflection of what we came to experience. It's perfect as it is. Inside and outside, there's still a version of you that is whole and that understands this. And in between are all the fragments that are making up the prism view that you are here to study and view. And what do you find out when you look at it through this angle? What stands out to you? What repeats to you? What scares you? What inspires you? The angle that you're looking at life through is safe, and if you can, remember that you could choose to be inspired by it instead of be fearful of it. You will move on from the position that you're in. And if you are not able to move on from the position you are in, then there's more to understand from that position. Sometimes in the position that we're in, we might be in a misunderstanding. There might be more to understand about it, but we don't know that, so we build from that place, from that foundation that we're on, which we don't understand is a shaky foundation. Later, the foundation crumbles, and we can either act like we are a victim or take the experience as something that widened our perspective. Oh, now we know. That wasn't true. What I built on was not true. What I invested in was not actually the truth. And the illusion, the untruth, the lies will reveal themselves and will not sustain. And so if you feel stuck, it's not going to be forever. There is going to be a shift at some point. And some people are experiencing a lot of perspective of fear and powerlessness and victimization. And in those perspectives, it feels like a lot of chaos. It feels like you're unsafe in the world. It feels scary. And those things alone will often motivate us to look for something else, to understand it a different way, to surrender some of the misunderstandings that we had, to slow down and be present with some of the pains that we haven't let ourselves experience fully. When we see somebody else and it appears that they're not understanding everything we feel we understand, right? Like if we look at someone else and we think, oh, they don't quite get it because I see this. Well, I get this kind of flavor from a lot of people, and I've had it before myself. It's not true that we are superior or that our view is more valuable to them than it is to us. It's not even true that our view is the only view or that it's the right view to have. When somebody has a view that appears to be more limited than the view we have, that's still the view they're meant to have. If someone appears to be making a mistake or fucking their life up, that's their mistake to make. That's their fuck up to have. It is not up to us to rob them of it, to correct them, to save them. All that's nonsense. Alright, I'm going to pause to take this call. That was one of my sons who's dealing with technical difficulties with his internet service. And, right, it's not my thing to fix. The challenge is his to face. And I have tears coming to the back of my eyes when I think about it in terms of that, right? Because, of course, I'm his mother. He's had a lot of struggle in life, and he's one of my sons that, did take take on a perspective of some struggle, and he's come such a long way, and I just really honor his process. But when I look at the fact that he's now facing a challenge with his internet service provider, that is requiring him to make phone calls, that is requiring him to have patience, that is requiring him to articulate what he needs and what the problem is, and to face challenge of communication issues and of being misunderstood and hung up on by customer service, and going through this process and that process of troubleshooting with the operators, and now having to call and schedule a technician to come to his home. There might be part of me that's, well, no, there's no part of me now, but like an older version of me, there may have been, like frustration or like whatever, upset about the challenge that he's facing. But this version of me just is in awe of the universe, because these are the skills that he needs, that he hadn't had a chance to develop yet because he was in survival mode for a long time in his life. And he is discovering that he's safe now. He is addressing issues that we as humans have to address every day, but that he was unable to, or not in a position to even consider for many years in his life. So this challenge that he faces is like the universe kind of catching him up to adulthood. It's so beautiful, It's like I can't save him from that. I wouldn't want to. He is going to feel accomplished when it gets done, and it will get done, right? Like it's just a matter of time and patience and learning what needs to be communicated, and some trial and error. It's so wonderful that I can sit in that view of his experience, knowing that it's the perfect experience for him, that he is experiencing what he came to experience, and that I don't have to save him or anything, like he's got this. So it's the same for anyone in our lives that we see going through a challenge. That challenge could be the exact challenge that they need. I don't care if you've seen them go through it 25 times. If you're looking at them and judging them because they've been doing it wrong 25 times, how many times have you been wrongly judging them? And isn't that the experience that you should be looking at? What is it to focus yourself outside of yourself and pretend that someone else is doing it wrong instead of you? What's that experience like? Because that's the experience you're having if you're doing that, right? And what I have learned is what that experience is kind of a waste of my time. Because time is what I have here, right? I'm experiencing life through time. And what I focus on is what I get more of. So if I'm focusing on other people's challenges, I'm probably going to start seeing a lot of other people's challenges, and I'll amplify it. And if I instead just take that focus back into myself, realize that I am a sovereign being, that I'm responsible for me and what I'm doing, where I'm fucking up or not, and just loving, being present, and allowing my own experience, whatever it may be. Not fighting against it, not claiming myself a victim, but just like being in the flow of the experience of being alive. Because to be in that state is to be free. There's no limitation of what you can or can't do. There's trust, there's faith, there's this knowing or understanding that I'm along for this ride. You know? The ride is not as fun if I flail and complain and say poor me. That is not a fun time. I've been there. That doesn't feel good. Kind of makes me feel like I want to die. So I'm sure glad that I realized that that's not where it was at. I was trained into that. I was shown that that's the way to be. But that's because in order to come into Earth, I had to adopt the programming of my ancestors, of those that came before me. And through doing that, I alchemized those misunderstandings. Not just for me, but for those that come after me, for those who are inspired to do the same by seeing the example of me. But that's not why I did it. I did it so that I could enjoy my time here on life. Because different things motivated me at different times, but whatever the motivation was at the time was the perfect transportation to get me to do what I needed to do to get to the next step. Like, there's no wrong motivation if it's my motivation and it's the only one I got. Ideally, sure, my motivation would be that I love myself, that I am doing what my heart wants to do, that I'm following my inner urges and my curiosities, right? Because those are the things that are guiding me through the experience of life as a creator, as a creative being who is here on Earth in a place where I can use magic and create what I want. The same way that I created the reality I was living out before I disassembled the programming that I got, I can also live out the reality after the programs are disassembled, and I am completely in the present moment, creating from my own inner urge and my soul's intention. And that's what it's about for me, and that's, I believe, what it's about when it's time to be about that, right? Like, I wouldn't want to say that somebody's wrong for being in the perspective that says, oh, I'm a victim, oh, but I can't do it, oh, but that's too hard, because if that's the experience that you're having, then that's the one you're meant to have. But, like, if we refuse for a long, long, long time, and we're harboring energies that are kind of, like, not moving, like, if you stop the flow and kind of suppress and deny things that end up looping in your energy body, that eventually will cause you to manifest a way to slow yourself down, to maybe look closer, right? Like, sometimes illness would manifest because it's the thing that takes you out of commission and out of the program of doing what society expects of you, which is often staying busy, you know? So when you start to understand the truth, right? Like, the Kabbalion tells us about the truths. The Hermetic principles are the truths of how the universe is working. When you remember that for yourself and you compare that to what you are actually living, you know that the discrepancy between the truth and what you're believing and living out, or how you're living, the discrepancy is what you use to clean up and free yourself from limitation. Because the limitation is either a misunderstanding, an unprocessed emotion, trauma, overwhelm, whatever. But, like, it's a lie. It's an illusion. And it's okay to be in an illusion. When we experience an illusion, it's part of the experience of being on Earth. You are having an experience that is useful to you and your soul. But when you have learned all you can, you balance that out, you neutralize it, and then you see above it. You're not limited by it anymore. You're in the truth. The truth will set you free, right? And freedom is just my favorite thing. And when I say freedom, it's like freedom is being in that flow, being in the space where I can create from my own impetus, my own inner urge, and my own curiosities, and what I'm inspired to. Because, like, when you look at it that way, you know, not all of us have set rules for this, and this that I want to accomplish on Earth. Some people are just surfing through and waiting to get inspired to whatever. Some people have already accomplished it and decided to take on more. And some people might want to experience taking on something so difficult or elusive that they don't reach it, and that maybe they'll have more progress in the next round, you know, when they come back into Earth. Like, there is such a thing as evolving the soul towards being prepared for full awareness or fuller awakening, or being present, or shedding and surrendering what doesn't need to stay as an experience of a lie. So, yeah. So when I do readings, what I'm doing is taking my understanding of the truth, looking at the energy of the person I'm reading for, and then telling them about the discrepancy. So here's what the truth is, here's what your experience is showing you, and here's what the discrepancy is. Here's what I'm going to tell you about, right? This little timeline here, which anchored in your misunderstanding, and you've been living it out, and here you are based on the fact that you've lived out that misunderstanding to this point, and here's what it is for you. That's what I do when I read. Now, if you come to me for the truth, and I present the truth, and there's part of you that just can't take it in, that you still want to justify what it is you were thinking or experiencing or living out, that probably means that you do need to justify that more. You do need to live that out more. You do need to understand more why you were doing what you were doing. You know, and if it's a 15-minute reading, 20-minute reading, it's beyond the capacity that reading allows for us to address your root causes of certain things, right? You'd have to actually book a session with me, and then we could get to root causes of things like that. But, like, in general, in a 20-minute reading or whatever, the capacity that I have is to, like, explain to you what it is, right? What you do with that is up to you. Me explaining what the discrepancy is doesn't solve it. It's always going to be up to you, up to the person I'm reading for, to return themselves back to the truth when that discrepancy is presented to them. So, I like looking at the reading in terms of that, and some people may think that I'm actually using psychic ability or mediumship or things like that, and although I do use my intuition, and sometimes I'll get psychic impressions during a reading, it's not the primary thing I'm doing. It's not the primary mode of delivery. It's just like another sense. It's just like if you smell something that you're about to cook with and it's off, like, you don't just ignore that it smelled bad. You go, oh, there's an indication that something's off here. You know, that's what the psychic impressions can be like. It's like, oh, there's an added detail. If you want to let them know this, then this might clue them in to, like, what you're talking about, or really get into the spot that they really need dug at. You know what I mean? That's how it kind of works. Like, what I'm doing is explaining the discrepancy you have between truth and where you're at, and then sprinkled in there might be like keywords or impressions or stories that are synchronistic that help you kind of go, oh, this is relevant to me. I recognize that. You know what I mean? So that's an ideal reading. What an ideal reading would do would allow somebody to feel recognized in the reading. But as far as like resolving the whole issue, you know, it depends on who you are and how adept you are at, and where you are in your journey, whether it's time to release that perspective you're holding or not, and the discrepancy you're holding. It's up to a personalized, you know, you to handle that part. But I like sharing with people the discrepancy when they want to hear it, when they are ready and it's time. And sometimes it's something where we have been looping in it for a while and we can move on. We just don't realize that we can, right? And sometimes that is all you need to realize, that you already have it figured out. And sometimes a reading is just reassuring you, yeah, this understanding that you have of the discrepancy, that's true. Now what are you going to do? You know what I mean? So the readings don't tell people what to do. It's always just like information to reflect on. You get to decide, because as we learned earlier in my talk here, it's all about sovereignty. It's all about going from what's within to live out the perspective that you came to experience, and that includes when it's time to relinquish the perspective or the misunderstanding that you are in currently. That's all on you. Yeah, I lost my little train of thought there, but like, oh yeah, that it's important that if we're returning to the wholeness of who we are and, you know, coming to the fuller awareness of these experiences that we have, you know, understanding the lie and understanding the truth in what we're experiencing, that returns us to the wholeness of who we are. And if that's the goal, like, it should be self-led, because only you would know when you can move out of a misunderstanding into the truth. And if you haven't fully understood the misunderstanding you have, the discrepancy that there is, then there's more to look at for you. So if you are trying to justify it and, you know, just not able to fully kind of shift out of it right in the context of a reading, it doesn't mean anything's gone wrong. It just means you have more time within that discrepancy to look at things and to inquire. Self-awareness is so big, and like, why part of what got me so far in my own journey is that I made self-awareness a priority. You know, that was one of the first things that I implemented into my programming when I changed my own programming. I saw the reason logically why it would serve me to be self-aware because of the mirror concepts, and I made that a rule for myself. Like some people make it a rule, like I always pray before I eat. I made it a rule that whatever I do, I look at myself and inquire, why am I doing that? What am I getting out of it? What's the hidden benefit? What am I trying to get out of it? Do I have motives? What are my intentions? I look at that in myself as a matter of being alive. And that is analysis. That is not presence. And presence is really where it's at. So I made that part of my operating system, and then when I got really far and a lot of my programs, I was above them and relinquished my misunderstandings on a lot of stuff, then it was much easier to come back into the present moment and just be like, oh, I don't have to operate that way now. Now I can just kind of be present, and I'll be alerted to things if they need to be looked at. Right? I don't have to analyze every motion I take, like why I wore this bathing suit or why I did my hair like this, right? I'm just present with it, right? There's no ill feelings about any of it. There's no worry or fear about any of it. So I don't I'm not alerted to something to analyze, right? I'm just being. I love just being. We get to be on Earth, you know? All right. So, I would like to sit down with various people and kind of talk with each other about truths and discrepancies, challenges, perspectives, experiences. I would just like to sit down with people who are willing to apply the truth or to understand the truth about the experiences that they or we are all having as people, by utilizing themselves, their own experiences, maybe their birth chart, maybe their human design, things like this, to kind of just look at the human experience from the perspective of, let's look at the experiences and the discrepancies between the truth and the lie. What are we trying to learn? You know, what more is there to see about it? How is it valid? You know, things like this. I would like to explore that on a more in-depth level. And if you're interested in coming on the show, I'm going to just have a little show. We'll probably post it on YouTube, but I believe it's going to be on Twitch, which is a gamer's platform. So we're actually kind of framing it as like we're looking at the game of life, which is sort of this like throwback to an idea I had years ago where I was going to present the astrology chart to the younger generation through presenting it as like a quest in a video game, and that we were just like, you know, playing the game of life. But I never pursued that. Although I liked it as an idea, I just wasn't ready at that time to be as exposed and vulnerable as it would require me to be. And so that's because I still had a bunch of shadows that were having me in fearful expectations. So now that those are gone, let's continue. But now this version is that we'll utilize, you know, maybe the astrology chart, maybe another chart, and like the experiences of the person and the understandings that we'll talk about will not just be based on what the chart says, but also, you know, what our discussion reveals. So if you are interested in being a guest on the show, then please go to my website. It's juliemandytuller.life. So Mandy has an I, Juliemanditullar.life. And you'll see somewhere there on my website, if you scroll down a little bit, that you can be added to the list. So just send me an email saying that you are interested in being on the show, and if you are chosen to be on the show, you will be contacted. We'll set up a time and we'll go from there. So I'm pretty, you know, interested in seeing where this goes. I think it'll just kind of be fruitful in that, one, it'll be a nice way to connect, to show humility in the human experience, to highlight examples of people who are willing to give context to others who are having different perspectives, to access reassurance or whatever, or support in some cases for working through and walking through, you know, misunderstandings. Also, just highlighting the fact that each person on Earth is in their own unique perspective and is having the experience that they're meant to have. Because I really think that the astrology chart shows us that, because every chart is different. Like even for twins, I have twins, I don't know if you know that. I'm a mother of twins. But even twins have a different experience on Earth, right? But their energy dictates the experience that they're going to have. The perspectives that they're going to have are going to be flavored by the energy that they're working with. And everyone's got a different set of energy, right? And I feel like this limitation that we sometimes live out in society, although it's not wrong, but the limitation of trying to fit in and be acceptable to others can kind of be loosened up, and we can help it fall away by highlighting that each soul is unique, even if they look sort of similar on the outside to a bunch of other group of people. They may have something in common, but it doesn't mean that everything is in common. You know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be something unique. And I just kind of wanted to highlight that as like this judgment thing that we do, this like expecting somebody else to be somewhere where they're not, just because we would like to see them be somewhere else, like, or not make that mistake anymore, like, because it's uncomfortable for us, expecting someone else to be different. All that kind of stuff is all been done, and it sort of detracts from the progress that we can make on ourselves if that's what we would like to do. So let's take a look, check out my website, send me an email, and we'll get started with the show. It'll be fun. We'll see you there. Look forward to hearing from you.